Hello and welcome to Raft. This game, you're on a raft. You spawn on a raft. You probably die on the raft. I don't know. I've never made it that far, but it's all about rafts. I decided to call my raft Grafton and Rafting because I came back from work and I felt like I'd worked very hard, so I called it that. The whole kind of like main mechanic of this game is just throw your hook and bring stuff in, which you can see it does get a bit repetitive, so don't worry, I'll cut most of it out. But you are able to like make your raft a lot bigger, and you can find like islands and stuff like that, and I believe the islands get quite interesting. I think there's like a big glass city you can find, or like a glass dome. I think I've seen pictures of that online. But it was actually the that big glass dome city place that made me want to play the game, because I saw it online and I thought it was like a mod, and I looked into it and it was like it's part of the game, and I was like, what? So there's more to the game than just living on a raft? You can get these barrels which contain like loads and loads of stuff. We're gonna need a lot of like stone and scrap so we can make an anchor, which means we can actually stop at some of the islands we come across. I managed to get enough materials to make a wooden spear. This was really good as we started to approach an island. You can kind of see it in the distance there. We also got our first shark attack just as we were approaching the island, but thankfully I had the spear on hand, ready to get that shark to fuck off! Unfortunately, I hadn't got enough materials to make an anchor yet, so I just decided to crash my raft into the side of this island and hoped it stayed there for long enough that I could kind of get some materials. The main materials I was after was some rocks so I could kind of anchor my raft down. But after getting the few rocks that I needed, I decided just to head on to the island and see what I could find on there. The islands on this game hold quite a lot of common resources. You can get a lot of wood, and you can also get a lot of early game food, which is really what I need right now. You can also find these crates that have got a lot of early game materials in. Materials like the hinge are locked behind smelters, so it was quite good to get one of those in these crates. After returning to my raft, I decided that it was time to fuck this shark up. I wanted to explore underwater, and the only thing stopping me was the shark, so I decided to jump on in and get stabbing it with my fucking stick. You can actually cheese the shark by, when it opens its mouth, you can like stab it, or later on you can get a bow and shoot it. But it literally negates all damage, and you can just do it as long as you don't run out of air. It takes quite a while. This is on 5x speed, and I don't know how it's going to come out because it's all choppy in the editor, but hopefully it's alright. But after a long, old stick prodding, the shark goes down. Shark meat is also really good food for the early game, and this little trick just lets you get it a lot easier than you normally should. There's also a little thing you can do where if you leave the shark in the water and don't fully loot it, the body will take a while to despawn, and then after that there'll be like a countdown timer for the shark to respawn, and this just gives you, I think, 8 minutes total underwater instead of the normal 3. The main stuff I'm after down here is sand and clay. I need those to get some wet bricks, which I can use to make a smelter, meaning I can start upgrading my tools into metal. For some reason, while I was down here, and while I'm down at basically every island up until the point I'm making this video, I completely forgot to get any scrap. I just didn't think you really needed it that much, so I ignored it all. But while the shark was still not respawned, I decided to have a quick swim around the island and pick up any bits of material that were just floating on the water that I'd missed coming in. I didn't quite realise how far I'd actually swum out until I started dying of dehydration, and I turned around and just see the island really far away. Apparently this wasn't of much concern to me because I just decided to start crafting an axe on my way back, but you know. At least I've got an axe now. I think my plan for water was to go and cut down a tree and then eat the coconuts. I don't know why I did this. I assume I didn't have any better way to get water at the time. But thankfully I get everything I need and my water starts going back up. I then decided that I'd got everything I needed from this island, so I headed back to my raft and set sail into the ocean again. It's really weird seeing my raft like half an hour into the playthrough, because at the moment I've played about 5 hours of this game and my raft is quite big now. But looking back, I'm like, how long did I have this tiny bit of raft for? But this is where I finally decided that we need a bit more real estate. So I start expanding my raft and getting a bit more floor space. We can't keep relying on islands as our source of food and water, so we're going to try and get a water purifier and a little cooking station going. Due to the fact we're already dying of dehydration, I decided to make a quick water purifier. You also need to make a separate cup to actually use it, but I forgot about that, so I had to keep trying to get materials. And after getting everything I need to make a cup, we're able to stay hydrated on the raft. It does take a little bit of time, but you can always have one prepared. You just have to fill it up with seawater and then like boil it, really. Same as real life. Next we're going to make a cooking station so we can actually cook the bits of shark that we've got. Both stations require wood as fuel to operate, so we're going to need to make sure we stay on top of that. After making our raft slightly bit bigger and getting that shark to fuck off again, he just keeps attacking me, I managed to get enough materials to craft a research table. With the research table you can put one of each item into the table and it will just unlock a load of new recipes that uses that material. It does consume the item you put in there though, which is a bit annoying. Now that I've got a bit more space as well, I decided to put down my first wet brick. This will turn into a dry brick after a few minutes, and then I'll be able to research it and make a smelter, so I'll be able to get metal tools. I decided to paddle towards the island I saw in the distance, and thankfully, whoever this guy is on the raft is a fucking paddleboarding expert, because he just went there. He paddled the whole fucking way. Upon arriving to the island, I had enough materials to make a portable anchor. So down the anchor went, and we docked up here for a while. My plan here was basically the same as it was at the last island, which is just grab as many resources as I can while killing the shark so I can search underwater. We needed to get some wood for our water purifier and cooking station, so I headed on to the island first to get those. And then the shark wants war, so he's gonna get war. Then after a nice easy battle with the shark, he goes down and his delicious meat is all mine. I don't know why I said it like that. That was really weird actually. With the shark now dead, I'm free to explore underwater as much as I want. The main stuff I'm after is sand and clay so I can make the wet bricks for the smelter. We're able to get all of the wet bricks we need, so I place them down and head off back into the ocean. It's not long before we come across another island, and I decide to try and get some more metal. This one has quite a big underground kind of reef area that I decide to explore. And while I'm doing that, all of my bricks are dried so I can finally make the smelter. Just like everything else on this raft, the smelter requires wood as fuel, which is just a further dependency on wood, so we're going to need to start getting some trees and stuff very soon. I managed to find quite a lot of metal at this island, so I decided time to head off. We now had enough metal to make the tools we needed, but we were missing a lot of the other materials, and the easiest place to find it was out in the ocean. My hook broke pretty quickly after being back into the water, so the first thing I made was the metal hook. This has more range, and it draws things in faster, as well as mining things quicker underwater. I don't know how else to describe it, but it feels really good to get an upgraded hook, because it's something you use all the time. And although the use speed and the real speed might not sound like much, when actually trying to collect materials, they make a big difference. I decided that I wanted to make our raft a bit bigger, as I think it was time to get a sail. The sail will allow us to go in kind of directions as long as the wind's going in that way, so we should be able to make it to islands a bit easier now. I believe it also makes your raft go a little bit faster, so we should start kind of coming across materials quicker in the water as well. We ended up coming across this stranded raft with no one on it, but there was a nice chest, so we got a few little bits of loot from that. During the last kind of 30 minutes or so, I'd been gathering up enough materials to make a upgraded water purifier. This one is really good because it's got a higher capacity of water, and it also doesn't require any fuel. It just uses the sun and glass to heat the water up. After coming to an island, we're also able to make an upgraded grill, meaning we could now cook 3 things at a time. And to celebrate this, I decided to massacre a shark and fucking cook it. I wanted to make this raft as sustainable as I could, and there was one thing I needed for that. And that was the ability to grow trees on my raft, giving me an endless supply of wood and food. With a tree placed down, we're able to get enough wood to expand our raft by quite a big amount. I also started to craft and place down these nets that catch materials for you as they kind of go past. I also decided to expand my raft by 1 block one way and 2 the other, just to give us a bit of a wider reach on the materials. The last like hour and a half of me playing this game today was just me building and expanding my raft as much as I could, and it ended up working out really well, as some of the nets were pulling in so many materials. The big crates that I pick up here have got even more materials than the barrels, and they can even hold some rarer materials as well. I also managed to craft my first circuit board and just throw it straight in the research table. This unlocks a lot of the stuff that I'm going to have to use to progress into the actual story of the game. The shark ended up eating one of my nets that I've got at the front of the raft, and this kind of pissed me off because they're actually quite expensive to make, but it gave me an idea. The shark will always prioritize bits on the outside of your raft, so after filling in the last 2 nets, I kind of made a little pattern with some foundation. I've noticed the shark also tends to go on corners and bits that stick out more than it does any other piece, so I thought this would do for now. Or at least until I can get some more materials to actually fill it in fully. And with all the net picking up all the materials, that didn't take long at all, and it was done. Now that I had a bigger raft, it was time to move some stuff around. I put the sail at the front and in the center, and I made another tree plot and put that on one side, and eventually moved the original tree plot to the other side. I just wanted it to be symmetrical. I also decided to put these little triangle pieces in the front corners just to make it look a bit nicer. But for me, I was done for the day. I'd spent so many hours on this game just expanding my raft at this point, and it just got slower and slower because the bigger your raft got, the more you needed to put down each side, and it just started to drain me a bit. But I hope you like what you saw. there's already kind of the second part has already been recorded, so I'm hoping to get that out quite soon. And I'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Yeah.